This is Baby. He's the protagonist in this summer's movie, Baby Driver by Edgar Wright. And I think he is a perfect example of good character introductions. What makes an audience quickly identify with a character, immediately be drawn into who they are, cheer for them from the get-go? There are many techniques used, some more powerful than others, but Baby Driver hits on several. Very quickly, they show him doing something that everybody can identify with, can relate to, has done before, and that is sing to the radio. He immediately starts singing with his iPod and drumming to the car, and the audience finds this endearing because at one time or another, that right song has come onto the radio or come through your headphones, and you just can't help but give in to the music, just like Baby. And that's the first thing Edgar Wright does to make us connect. The second thing that he does is during the robbery scene, you see him watch the other members of the team and they fire a gun and he flinches. This is fully intentional. It isn't just like, oh, it's a gunshot. He's been around this before, as you find out. He's been involved with a lot of crime, according to Kevin Spacey. What we see from this is that he is not a friend of violence. He watches very intently after the gun goes off to see if anybody's hurt. When they aim the gun at the civilians, he has a very concerned look on his face, dropping his sunglasses and looking closer, because you as the audience should be concerned for the safety of innocent people. And Baby is shown feeling the same way immediately. So the second thing that he does is show that Baby is compassionate, that he has a heart, that he is somebody that cares for others. And again, that's another thing that can be a trait that audiences will latch on to if it's reinforced with what they do in the next part of the scene. As soon as the other characters are back in the car, you see the passenger seat character point forward, telling him which direction to go and that it needs to be immediately. What Baby does is he goes backwards. Again, he could have gone forward, but that isn't what happened. What this shows is that he's confident, that he doesn't need somebody else to tell him what to do, that he can take action and make decisions and make sure that the outcome is not resting in other people's hands but in his own. And that's really important with protagonists, because if the audience sees that your protagonist is passive, that they'll sit back and they just kind of let things happen, and there are stories where that can kind of work. And when I say protagonist, I mean any leading character, not necessarily a hero. In some stories, villains can be protagonists as well, but the most charismatic and interesting villains are also people who take control. Sometimes villains can upstage heroes if the heroes are written too poorly. If they can't make decisions, if they let the consequences of the story around them and the actions of others constantly take them forward, the audience will very quickly latch on to whatever character is making those decisions, be it good or bad. Matt Bird talks about this a lot in the book Secret of Story, in his chapter on building up your protagonist. And I have to agree, after we're shown that Baby Driver can make his own decisions and take charge of any situation, we also see his skills put on display in a few minutes of a chase scene. He's shown outsmarting dozens of police vehicles, and that is the last part that we as an audience need to know, that he has viable skills, that he not only knows how to take action, but he can also use his abilities to make those actions solutions for his situations. That is what makes Baby Driver such a good example of strong character introductions. The other movie that really stood out to me this summer, which was a much bigger blockbuster summer flick, was Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman does some interesting things with her character introduction as well, and that is because it is a movie told in flashback. We get to see her origins, but without it feeling like a stereotypical superhero origin movie, in my opinion. I feel like it could have been just a tale as opposed to a superhero movie. But that's beside the point. In the beginning of Wonder Woman, we see a very young Princess Diana. Whenever a character is introduced as a child, the audience immediately has something to cling to recognize, because we've all been children. And in this case, as a child, she's told that she can't do something. Not so much because she's unable or incapable, but because she's being misunderstood. She's being told it's too dangerous, or this isn't meant for you, from her mother. But her aunt sees more in her. And that is something all audiences will cling to. Everybody knows what it feels like to be underestimated. Everybody knows what it feels like to be misunderstood. And in that moment, we are able to connect with her, to also hope that she gets more, to see what she'll become in spite of the things that are put in front of her. And so by making that choice in the film, we can very early on connect with this character. I really think that it goes on from there to only establish deeper why we root for Diana when she makes a decision to leave Themyscira, even though it means her leaving her family, leaving everything she knows. It's a decision that doesn't come lightly. But we can respect it because she has a noble desire. She has a noble goal. And because of the character that's established when she's a child, knowing that she wants something greater and she wants to be able to fight for a cause and to be a hero in a sense, this is a moment where we support her again. And it just reinforces that entire opening on the island of Themyscira is a great introduction to the character, which is why we can stand behind her when she makes her decisions later in the movie that seem contrary to those of the characters around her, but we want to see her succeed at the task she's trying to achieve. A third movie that I just wanted to throw in as a bonus when thinking about this topic earlier today is a movie beloved by many, but perhaps it's never been looked at this way as why you like the character early on. I don't think I've ever had anybody talk about it, but I realized that in Beauty and the Beast, the introduction of Belle, we get a lot of who she is. And these things that we've been talking about in this video are also mirrored in Beauty and the Beast. We see her be an outsider. She's misunderstood. The people of town don't really like what she is about. And then we see Gaston approach her, and she is able to kind of push him away and decide that that's not what she wants. She takes that immediate action. But then later, when faced with danger and the idea that her father is lost and missing, she immediately takes charge. She makes the decision herself, and she goes out to find him. And when she finds him, then she has that moment of heroic sacrifice. She has the moment where she gets to choose that her father's life can be saved if she gives up her own. And so by that scene, we are invested in Belle's character. We like her because of who she is. We identify with her because she's misunderstood. And we want to see her succeed for the rest of the movie in anything that she comes up against. And that is what this video is meant to be about. I think it's interesting when you start to look at storytelling and why characters connect with the audience and how to make that happen very quickly. These are a couple of movies that I personally feel are just strong examples of ways to do that, and they did it very effectively. And they're also great stories, just as wholes, not just the character introduction, but I feel very strongly that these are films that you can discuss and have ideas and themes and just an ideology about them. For my next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about bad character introductions. There's another movie that came out this summer that I think would be a great example of a really poor character introduction in a movie that had potential to be much better, and a really poor villain introduction, unless you're into the mustache twirling type of Machiavellian villains, which work in some situations, but in what I am going to point out is not the best choice when you want a surprise reveal. So, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click the like button. If you want to see more and want to know what's coming up, click subscribe. And I will see you on the next page.